Hello guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel and to today's video where we are going to be interviewing ex-Lincoln City and Grimsby Town legend Nathan Arnold. We're going to be discussing his career in non-league football, his career in management and also the incredibly important work he does off the pitch as well. But before we get into it, if you guys are new around here, or if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss an upload. And also, while you're down there, if you could leave a like on the video as well, that would really help the channel grow. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. So guys, we're here with Nathan Arnold. How are you doing today, Nathan?
Yeah, very well. Just come off the back of a Zoom call with the lads, so a bit out of breath. They keep me on my toes, and it's hard to keep up at times, but no, doing really well. Thank you.
Good stuff. So if you're ready to get on with the questions, we will, yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so first thing I wanted to touch on is your time in non-league football before you sort of joined Grimsby and Lincoln City. Would you be able to sort of share some memories from your early career with me?
Yeah, sure. So actually looking back, I was playing in League Two at the age of 17, 18 at Mansfield Town. I made my debut. I scored on my home league debut against Bristol Rovers. And I think we won 4-3 that game. And, that was my first real taste of men's football. And then from Mansfield at 21, had a really good stint there. I was at Mansfield from the age of 10. So, of course, that was my local team. And, I got to move on from there about 21 to Alfreton Town. There was a little gap in between where I left Mansfield Town, and at the time I had a few agents circulating, and maybe a little bit of them and a little bit of my decisions as well probably took me down the wrong path from the age of probably 20 to 23. I went to Hyde United in between that time. I went from Mansfield Town, then dropped a couple of levels to Hyde United. I had a good friend there. I went down to play a few friendlies whilst the agent said, he's going to try and sort a few deals out. And of course, I pin all my hopes on an agent at that time because I'm only young, and I'm hoping that he can, get me a few clubs and open up a few doors. And that wasn't to be. So I ended up at Hyde United, and obviously a long way to go at that time. And I probably spent about 8 months to a season there. I then left and then went to Alfreton Town, which obviously was a little bit more closer to home for me. And I played under Nicky for 3 seasons. It was an incredible time. I didn't enjoy it initially, just because I think I was still had that boy mentality. I kind of probably went there with a chip on my shoulder as well a little bit, from making my debut at kind of 17, 18, playing in League Two to then playing in the Conference North. And one thing that Nicky did, he changed me from a boy to a man very quickly. He wasn't afraid to tell me how it was. And as much as it was uncomfortable for me, I probably needed to hear that at the time. So I matured over those 3 seasons. I got promotion from Conference North in my first season, and then spent 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons with them in the National League. And then always say to young players now, back then it's kind of the club owed you registration, so I couldn't then go on a free transfer anywhere. They had to pay compensation. And of course, at the time, I had a few clubs sniffing around, Leyton Orient, Notts County, a few others. And I just wasn't able to go on a free. And I was kind of pleading with my managers at the time to go. It wasn't until I was 24 when, dog in the background, when I was 24, when I could actually go. And I then signed for Cambridge. I think they paid a fee for me, a small fee, 30 or 50 grand, something. Not quite sure accurately if that's accurate, but went there. And then I'd say from 25, my career really started to get going. And that's probably where I had the main successes.
So from there, you sort of, you moved on to Grimsby, I think. Talk me through that time in your career, because I feel that's when you started to sort of gain a lot more notoriety as a player. You obviously scored the winning, I think it was a winning goal at Wembley as well to get them promoted to the Football League. So tell me about that time in your career.
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't actually know is that prior to that at Cambridge, We actually did the double that season. So we won the FA Trophy. So we went to Wembley twice, won the FA Trophy, then won via playoffs. So then my time from Cambridge to Grimsby, then to Lincoln, I got back-to-back promotions out the National League in 3 consecutive years. I think it was 3 out of 4 years. So yeah, I mean, Cambridge, just going back to Cambridge was really challenging for me. It's the first time I really got rejected. So I signed a 2-year contract, and in my first season, we got and did the double. At the end of that first season, kind of played in and out. I was in and out of the team, but kind of played every round in that FA Trophy season, bar the semis and the final. So that was really gutting, because I'd like kind of played in every game up until semis and final, and then didn't play. And then the manager, Richard Money at the time, pulled me and about 6 other lads and just said, "We've got our squad for the playoffs. Unfortunately, you've not made the squad, so you can take your summer holiday early." And that was a really tough one to take, because of course you are wanting to play in the at the business end in the big important games. And this is football. At the time, a lad called Sam Smith was on loan all season at Halifax. And I don't know if it was all season, but it certainly was on loan for majority of it. And I didn't even meet Sam, so I signed for Cambridge and I didn't meet him because he'd already gone out on a season-long loan. Come to the playoffs, and he was recalled and took my spot in the actual squad, and that was a really hard one to take, because I thought about loyalty, and I thought about, now obviously I'm on the other side as manager. You can understand certain decisions, and it's not easy making those decisions at the time. But of course, as a player, I took it really difficult. Took it really hard. And then in the summer, when they got promoted to League Two, I had a conversation with Richard Money, and we kind of wanted to know where I am in his plans. Obviously, I still had another year on my contract there, going into my second season. And I was on the training ground the very next season when we was in League Two. Was just just training with the lads, and Richard Money called me over, and it was Paul Hurst at Grimsby, and Paul Hurst, obviously expressed the desire to sign me, and I had a phone conversation with him. I then went back and spoke to Richard Money, and I went on a season on loan at Grimsby. And for me, I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Cambridge, but it was probably the first time in my career I got a rejection. And it fueled me more than anything else to then go and push on. So yeah, going on to Grimsby, signed there on a season-long loan. And then in my first season, we got to Wembley. We made the playoffs, and we lost on penalty kicks to Bristol Rovers. And then the following season, we got back to Wembley again. So went back to Wembley, probably did Wembley 3-4 times in 3 seasons. And so it was like my second home at that period. And then we played Forest Green Rovers, and then we got over the line the second time round. So probably from the age of 25, Cambridge, Grimsby and Lincoln, 3 fantastic football clubs, and I was proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, it must have been quite a roller coaster then, going from that rejection pretty much in the prime of your career to then that sort of high and that adulation of promotion. After Grimsby, you went on to play at Lincoln City famously, playing under the Cowleys, getting promotion to the Football League, and then going on that FA Cup run in the same season. Obviously, you scored the famous goal against Ipswich. Talk to me a bit about that, because that's what a lot of people that subscribe to this channel are going to sort of know you for and want to get some insight into, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny because, what is it, 4, you're looking at 4 years now on from my time at Lincoln City. And I could bump into somebody down the road, or when I come back into Lincoln and bump into somebody, and it's just nice to be remembered. And I think scoring goals, important goals like that, really does keep you in memory of people. And it's just really nice, because I've moved away from the full-time game as a player now, but always going to have that affinity and connection with the club, just because it was such a special time and period in the club's history. Obviously great that they're continuing that success and they're going on. And since Dan left and Nick, then Michael Appleton's done a fantastic job, just they've handed over the baton and they've continued the great work. And even behind the scenes, they've grown a lot as well. So it's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, too many memories that season really to just talk about them all. But the Ipswich goal, I always feel like it was an out of body experience. It's kind of like now you can step outside the picture and look at the whole thing and reflect. It's kind of like, was that me? Did I really do that? 90th minute, sprinting 70 yards, and I don't know where I found the energy from. I've always been quite a fit lad whenever it came to like running the bleep tests and stuff like that. I was always at the front and always winning them. I always kept myself relatively fit. And that was probably one of my strengths as a player, is to, have that mental toughness and have that fitness as well, and that durability. So I think looking at that break at the time when it happened, I would have backed myself if we looked at, that scenario where if we had one last attack, I would have backed myself to get up the top end of the pitch and try and, and win us the game. And fortunately, with my experience at the time, if that was probably 3 years prior, I probably would have had too much time to think about it and probably wouldn't have stayed as composed. So I just felt like it was the right time and right moment in my career to have an opportunity like that. And I don't want to like overanalyze it too much, but it was, again, I spoke to you last week on, the coffee morning and kind of just felt like it was meant to be. That season before the Ipswich game, there was the Graham Taylor tribute, and just gives me goosebumps. I remember running out the tunnel that night. It was very special, and getting Ipswich, it was, in the Championship and we're in the National League, to then, over 120 minutes to compete and probably be arguably the better side over 2 games, deservingly getting the result. It was just a fitting way to win a game. You couldn't write it. If you was going to win a game 1-0, I mean, what was it, 91st minute or 90th minute or something like that? It's just, crazy. But like I say, too many memories to really touch on.
Do you think with that season, the stars, like you said, the stars sort of aligned in that moment with the promotion and the FA Cup run? Do you think an important part of it was the sort of contrast between going to these state-of-the-art facilities and grounds like Burnley, Brighton, Arsenal eventually, and then having to go back and play at non-league stadiums, travelling away to, I don't know, Solihull or somewhere like that on a Tuesday night? Do you think that sort of contrast sort of kept you grounded as a squad to sort of get the job done on both fronts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the kind of group that we had that season. Never get too high when we win, never get too low, and try and find that middle ground. And I think even if we did win on a Saturday, we'd come back in Monday morning and pick the bones out of it. And Dan will always find, and Nick will always find holes in our performance to improve. So it was never a case of you could never during that season just kind of pat yourself on the back and look for a reward after a win. It was just relentless. It was just like literally one game after the next. And we never really had time to reflect. It was just chalking them off. But in a nutshell, so when we got drawn against Arsenal and they'd beat Sutton, we played Braintree the game before. And I can remember going down with Rags, with the Sun journalist on the Thursday to meet Thierry Henry at the Emirates Stadium. And this was prior to playing them at the weekend. And we'd just played Braintree. And I took a photo because I was probably one of the last ones off the coach, and everyone's like found a peg and put their clothes on it. And I can remember having this random space by myself in the changing rooms at Braintree, and didn't even have a peg, so I'd had to fold my clothes up and kind of sit on them and try and get changed in this tight space. So I took a photo, and then in a week, so Braintree, and then I'm at the Emirates, taking photos of where I'm sat. It's just the gulf in contrast and just the difference in 1 week. It was surreal, but I think the likes of Braintree that season and those kind of experiences kept us humble and grounded. So when it came to Arsenal, it was almost like a little treat, from what we're used to. But having said that, Dan and Nick always found us great facilities whenever we was on the road and was going to play down south, you know, or up north. We'd always find the best facilities. We trained at like Aston Villa, we trained at Arsenal, I think it was it Arsenal or Chelsea? I can't remember. QPR, I can't remember. There was quite a few teams down south that we played, that we trained at. We used their facilities and stuff like that. We trained at Blackburn. So yeah, we was kind of used to having good facilities on the road. But I just think that was so special about that group is that we could go to, you know, I can remember in my first season at Lincoln, North Ferriby, we go there away on a Tuesday night, really wet and cold and windy. We could go to Braintree, but then also we could go on a lovely surface, and our mentality wouldn't change. Our attitude wouldn't change. And like I say, that's testament to the group that Dan recruited, and Nick, because it's so easy to get ahead of yourself, especially when you get spoiled in midweek and you're kind of training at all these lovely facilities. So, but our training ground at the time, if you look at the state-of-the-art training ground now at Lincoln City, you know, they've got their own gym and got their own facilities. It's amazing. But, you know, when I first signed for Lincoln, we trained at the barracks, at the army barracks. And, you know, I'd always see Dan and Nick and Jimmy Walker raking the leaves off, you know, just to try and find the line of the pitch. And, you know, and we'd have conkers. I think Sam Amigan kind of had a fight with a conker a few times, like a few lads rolling their ankles and stuff like that. So we was kind of molded that way. You know, we was at the start, we kind of never forgot where we came from. So that really helped too.
So moving away from your playing career, you're now entering into management, currently manager at Bourne Town. Tell me a bit about that, and also your ambitions as well as a manager. Where do you see, or where do you hope to end up eventually in the managerial game?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, I always have to have a purpose attached to it. So obviously taking this managerial role at Bourne Town, you know, I want to kind of use that as a starting point. You know, it's a fantastic football club for where it's at. It's quite. I never quite understand how a club with that infrastructure and the facilities that they have, kind of being towards the basement of non-league. You know, it's got so much potential, and I think at the time when I got offered the opportunity to go there, there was other opportunities available to me. I could have fast-tracked my journey based off the career that I had and the contacts in the game, not from an egotistic standpoint, but just from a realistic, you know, standpoint where I had contacts in the game and I could have got my foot in the door at places and, you know, gone as continued as a player or gone down the route as player coach. And when the managerial job came, I really, as a player as well, like every club that I've been at, it has to serve a purpose. You know, I always have to see longevity in it. Quite uncertain in the football manager industry because, you know, in the world of management, you kind of you know, you are judged on results, and based off those results can define what happens. And for me, it's important that I was kind of handpicking my next move. And, you know, Bourne, when it came along and spoke to the chairman and the people there, I just really thought I could impact it with my skill set, with my experience, with my knowledge. I really thought I could have an impact and affect the football club positively. And, you know, having numerous conversations with them, going down, look at the facilities and looking at, you know, what they're looking to do, it just matched, it just fit. And so I was willing to, rather than fast tracking my journey, starting from the bottom and kind of earning my way, and you know, and eventually, of course, I want to have an opportunity to go as high as I can. And at the minute, you know, we're looking at doing that with Bourne. You know, the club want to move forward, and you know, and that's my responsibility now to put things in place and make it happen. And they've given me the ammunition and the tools to be able to be competitive at the level that we're at, and probably limp through the first 4 or 5 months of being there just because of COVID and stop-start. And also trying to, I mean, when I first went there, I had 11 players. I didn't have a goalkeeper coach, didn't have a physio, you know, and kind of had, that was probably 3 weeks before the season started. So I had to kind of use the first month, September, as a mini pre-season. We managed to then accumulate 7 points in that first month. Really tough month on paper with fixtures. So really pleased to come out with that return and then kind of manage expectations as we went along. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have one eye on next season. just because buys me time. I can do more work in private, off the pitch and on the pitch when it comes to recruiting. I'm a loyal person, so we've got a good core of the group already there, and testament to my players now, because when we did finish in December, they've not missed one session. I've got off a session, if you can see, I've got the gym equipment down there. I've put on a session Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday since we finished in December. I couldn't do that if the lads wasn't, participating in it. They have done, and it's my duty to keep them fit and motivated. And, like I say, I've got a really good group, and I want to strengthen. I need to add to the group, especially if we're going to move the club forward. I've got a good group of players, but I'm mindful that I need to, pick the right players coming into the club as well. They've got to be a right fit. And I kind of wanted to go to Bourne. The reason why they recruit from the age of 6. So they've got under 6s all the way through to the first team. They've got 20 odd teams in total. They've got a reserve team. They're looking at maybe igniting another women's team as well, but all in good time. Really good plans, really good conversations happening. And, when you go into a club that's kind of just stayed at that level, I've been mindful of not making too many changes early on. It can kind of disrupt things, and there's been a few casualties, I'm not going to lie. There's been a few fires to put out, but whenever there is change and significant change, then you are going to make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. But it's healthy, I believe. I think it's a club with great potential. The fans we've got the highest attendance in that division. The fans are great. The fans are really behind Bourne, and they've kind of been in the shadow of Deeping Rangers down the road for so long. And that's our ambitions. We no longer want to be in the shadow of Deeping, and of course there's going to be a lot of hard work that's going to go in, but that's our ambition, to go through the leagues and go as high as we can. And that's the reason why I'm there, really. It's because I've seen a club with ambition and so much potential, and so I get great pleasure in kind of using Bourne as a platform for young players. I've managed to get a few players from Peterborough United who got released, Doncaster, Lincoln City, Grimsby, and in talks with these players to then, whether they fell out of love with the game or they've lost their way from getting released, I want to be that guy, that manager, that friend to them that can, kickstart their career again. And like I said, I've got every confidence in my skill set to do that as a coach, also as a manager, my management style, but also, from my experiences in the game and the contacts that I have to be able to open up doors for players. And that's one thing that I take great pride in, because as much as I'm ambitious and go forward, I think managers can get a little bit personal gain and a little bit selfish when it comes to keeping players. And I said to our lads, if you are above the level, or if you show a level of consistency where I believe you can go higher, you're one phone call away, or I can get you into a club tomorrow to be able to then go and test yourself at an higher level. And they're bought into it, and that's what I want, the players to believe in what I can bring and what I'm doing. And equally at the same time, if the lads want to stick it out and and grow and evolve with the football club as well, then that's even better for me. But most importantly, it's trying to get a player from where they are and fulfill their potential, because there's so many players in the game that just fell by the wayside or lost the way, or got no one looking after them. And it's a shame, because there's a lot of players out there in non-league that can play in the Football League, that can go high, but they just need the right environment and they need that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you on the training ground most weeks when I've been working at Bourne. I know the players, and I can sort of testify to that as well. It's a good group of lads, and I'm sure you'll go on to achieve what you want to with the club and in your career as well. Something else I wanted to touch on in terms of management. There seems to be a lack of black and ethnic minority managers in the professional game compared to what at least I've observed in non-league anyway. Would you be able to offer any thoughts on that, or why you sort of think that could be, really?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to sound controversial. It's obviously a sensitive topic and stuff, but I just think it's, it's kind of, in my experience, my personal experiences is that, if you have got the skill set and if you've got the ability and, and you're able to affect things at a football club, then no matter what skin color you are, for me, my perspective and kind of my experiences, that's never been an issue. I'm not saying that there maybe isn't unconscious biases, at the top at board level of clubs where they've kind of just gone for, naturally white managers. I don't know. And I kind of got involved with all the BLML stuff, stuff last year, and I kind of moved away from that now. I've kind of just thought, as long as I treat people fair and, I build a rapport and a relationship with my chairman and the board wherever I am, I don't believe that, that's going to be an issue. I just think if you've got the skill set and you're good enough at what you do, then the opportunities will open up. And I kind of don't want to fall victim. It's easy for me to sit here and just say, what, that could be the reason. And, I can remember probably prematurely went and applied for the Matlock job. Looking back now, it probably was too soon. But again, I have that confidence, that I can manage and at that level. So for me, it was kind of, I could have left there thinking, is it my skin color? Is it because of my age? And I could have been discriminated against. I didn't want to go down that route of playing victim. Somebody else got it. I had to take it on the chin and move on and bide my time and work really hard. And I realized that, if I just get my head down, have tunnel vision and be really driven in what I want to achieve, then I believe that opportunities will arise. I mean, if you look at the stats, of course, but then, I think since the BLM stuff that happened last year, I think if you look at that, there's more black managers now in the jobs. And I mean, you look on TV, the adverts and in TV programs, and it's like, it shouldn't really take that to happen for them to get the opportunities. But at the same time, change has happened. So it's like, you can't complain about it if you can see change happening. It has to start somewhere. I've got a good friend down at Hereford, Josh Gowling, who's done a fantastic job. Unfortunately, step two's now grounded to a halt. But, he was doing a fantastic job at Hereford, and it's great for him because, I think he spoke highly on this and in depth to Sky Sports prior to getting the job or just got the job. And he had a bit more to say on the matter. For me, I just think, it's never been an issue personally for me. So I kind of, I haven't really got too much to say in terms of that. I just think, again, there's victim consciousness, and then there's, then there's fighter. You're either victim or fighter, and I'd rather fight for what I believe in. I'd rather fight for what I want to achieve and be successful in life. And I kind of don't want to use excuses or anything like that. I just think if you are good enough and you've got that determination and that desire to succeed, then you will
do. In terms of other sort of roles off the pitch as well, you're heavily involved in sort of speaking out and advocating for mental health, men's mental health in sport as well, especially for people who might not be aware. Would you be able to talk about sort of how you started in that journey and sort of what's led you to that point in life, and why you feel it's so important to sort of get people talking about their mental health as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an area that I feel really strongly on. One, because I've lived through it, but two, I recognise that it is a massive issue, not just in football but in life in general. So I'll kind of take you back to the earliest point of where I started on this journey, and it was kind of when my time at Lincoln City. It probably triggered something that happened at Grimsby when I come out publicly and expressed how I felt about losing my mum in 2015 to mental health. Since that time, lost my father as well, so it's been a really challenging period, but football was always a release. I always felt like for that hour and a half when you cross the white line, or probably 3 hours prior when you're preparing for a game, I always got in that zone, that mindset, and it kind of left my worldly responsibilities and problems behind. and I kind of just wore, I was assertive. I've got my assertive hat on and kind of just done the job. And probably to when I was 27, 28 at Lincoln, it was off the back of all that success. When we played Arsenal, got to last day at the FA Cup, was one game away from Wembley in the trophy final when we got beat by York at home, and that was a bit of a sickener. But then, we got over the line as champions. For me, when I then finished the season, I kind of had time to breathe and exhale, and it was a very challenging season. It was an unbelievable season from a playing perspective, but really challenging in terms of physically, mentally, emotionally. It was such a roller coaster, such a positive season. But I think based on what happened previously joining Lincoln, like I say, back in 2015 with my mother, I just thought it caught with me a little bit. And in that summer, I then went onto the radio, BBC Radio Lincolnshire, and talking about these issues opened up. And as much as probably at the time they wanted me to talk about football, I had to talk about the way I was feeling. And probably the very first time I really give myself permission to open up about my issues away from the pitch. And then it really started from there. So when I talked about that, it then went on for me doing a workshop, just a one-off workshop. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. All I knew that I had a duty. I had 60 people reach out to me on social media off the back of that breakfast show on the radio, where there was like, me too, and sorry, I didn't know you was going through that. And by the time I opened up and shown that vulnerability, it brought people in a little bit closer to get to know who I was as a person. And I just thought, it's as much as it was challenging and uncomfortable for me to do that, it takes great strength to let people in to who you are. I think a lot of people know you as a footballer, kind of put you on this pedestal, and you kind of operating from a persona. I have a perception of how people perceive me, so I have to live up to that. So I just literally surrendered to it all and just said, look, this is who I am. This is what I've been dealing with. And I was overwhelmed by the level of support from the supporters, Grimsby, Lincoln, even Cambridge, and just football fans all over, reaching out to me, and just players too. I had 2 players currently at Lincoln at the time who came to me, pulled me aside, and they were struggling. And you wouldn't believe who it was, just because of, again, hiding it and how they are in public. But it just gives other people opportunity to then speak about that as well. And I felt really proud looking back, because as much as it was kind of I don't know, uncomfortable probably for people to hear and listen to, I was quite a deep person, and I kind of didn't hold back and spoke about it. Obviously I articulated it better in a way now, but I was quite raw and open, and it was uncomfortable for a lot of people and probably triggered a lot of people. Obviously with experience with public speaking and over time, I've managed to then get my message across much smoother. But I think most importantly, when I look back, the reason why I say it was quite uncomfortable is because at the time when I come out and spoke on the radio, I didn't know the effects that it was going to have on my playing career. And I'm not saying I was discriminated against. That's such a bold statement, and it's kind of an accusation or assumption to make. Not at all. I had fantastic people at Lincoln City support me. I'd knocked on Dan and Nick's door, and I could be in there for 2 hours. I don't know many managers that give a player 2 hours of their time whilst they're busy. You know what they're like anyway. Where being a Lincoln City supporter, they come out and they're so busy all the time. The attention to detail to things, but then looking back to give me that time, when I needed it, I needed somebody to speak to, and they always hold the space for me to do that. And and obviously our relationship continues to today from that time. And and I really appreciate, looking back, having that support there. But I think from a playing point of view, I kind of was at a place where I then created this thing inside of my head that once I opened up and I was quite vulnerable, how now people see me and perceive me. And so even teammates, even just people around, I kind of probably carried an extra bit of weight there in terms of a bit more of an effort to put on a smile, and probably, going out onto the football pitch and having to perform, having things going on in my head off the pitch, it was really difficult. And you know, at that time, kind of look at it and think, yeah, I was well supported, but at the same time, it probably did affect my performance. Like I said to you last week, I still think I had so much more to give and so much more life left in me at Lincoln City. I left in the summer where I had another year on my contract, you know, and I left with nothing, no money. I didn't ask for any money. I didn't take it down the tribunal, ask for compensation. I wanted to leave at the time because I was struggling. And looking back, I wish I maybe, if I had the experience or the knowledge I have around mental health now, I definitely think I could have continued in League Two with Lincoln City. And probably one of my regrets is, even though I started at 17 in League Two and did well, I wanted to probably at the back end of my career prove that I still had it, and then going into League Two, probably had mirrored the season I did in the National League. So I think, in all honesty, the Lincoln City supporters probably didn't see me see out that journey with Lincoln. You know, I had another year in my contract and kind of left prematurely, I felt. And I felt like I say, I had more to give at that time. So looking back on that period, as much as I would not change anything in terms of mental health and the amount of people that I've helped and supported along the way and healed myself in the process, there was that little bit at the end where I'm like, like I really did struggle with finding that level of performance based off what I was going through. And so it was always a question mark of like, you know, if I didn't maybe come out public and maybe blow it up so much, would I have been able to then, you know, continue that level of performance? Because I played 52 games previously. I was a regular starter. And Dan always told me, you know, I was, you know, there's no reason why I can't cement a place down on that wing. And again, for me, I think it was more psychological than anything else. So yeah. But overall, look, like I said, I wouldn't change a thing. And mental health's a big thing. Going on what I do now with Bourne, I recognise that we've not missed a session since we finished. And not only is it keeping them fit, but it's also well-being and mental health. You know, they're plugging into these Zoom calls Tuesday night, Thursday night after a hard slog, you know, at work, and then it's again coming together and staying close knit as a group, and you know, that does wonders for players. And I'm mindful. I try and reach out to them every 3 or 4 weeks. You know, pick up the phone and check in with them. Not football related, but just to see how they're getting on with their mental health and well-being. And you know, and that's kind of what I've implemented as manager. I know the importance of being inclusive and making sure that every single player who plays under me, that they feel safe and they feel comfortable to have these conversations. And you know, that's the kind of environment that I've wanted to create, and I am creating at Bourne. So it's really important, really, really important, you know.
Yeah, it is, especially now as well, with the way the non-league season's going. It's looking like it's going to be abandoned. Some players, you know, they don't know when they're going to lace up a pair of boots again. They don't know how long it's going to be. They don't know if they're going to have a club. So, like you say, it's really important that you're keeping in contact with your squad, and it's really important that you're talking about these issues as well. I know I struggle with issues myself, not that I've disclosed publicly, but yeah, it's definitely important that we keep talking about these things as men, as a society.
Yeah.
I will be leaving some links as well in the description of this video to people you can talk to, websites you can visit if you are struggling as well. Anybody watching this, remember, it's okay not to be okay, and to speak out as well. So Nathan, thank you. I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a really good interview, really good, insightful chat. I think people watching will have learned quite a lot about you. And yeah,
thank you, Robbie.
Any final words?
Anytime. And just great what you're doing, you know, using a social media platform. I think that's kind of the way it's gone, isn't it, in lockdown, where people virtually get together and have these conversations. And, you know, we can talk football all day. And I think, you know, that is the fun element to it, and looking back on those good times and memories and stuff like that. But like I say, the importance of continuing these conversations about mental health, you know, it's ongoing and probably heightened in this time, you know, in this period. So it's very important that you know, you can kind of point people in the right direction and guide them. And yeah, you know, it's been a pleasure working with you as well, Robbie. You know, when we first connected, and you know, you've done some unbelievable footage for us video wise. You know, I went in and I wanted games watched and doing the video analysis, and it's never been too much. You know, whenever I've asked you to do something, it's never been too much. And you know, I know the lads appreciate it, especially looking back on games and kind of picking it apart and looking at their progression and their development and stuff like that. When what I did notice is going in non-league to step 6 is not many teams do the video analysis. Not many teams do that. I mean, even probably higher. You know, it's probably not a thing. And it helped me bring that level of professionalism to Bourne. And yeah, I just want to thank you for your contribution, because you know, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I know the players, as vain as some of them are, they love watching themselves play and looking back at their performances. But it's really important, and it helps me from what I'm trying to do, because you know, if I'm then to get a player an agent and get them looked after, or if I'm to get the foot in the door somewhere and I've got footage of that player as well, you know, it's great for their career. And like I say, I'm all about that. So yeah, just thank you for your participation, your contribution so far. And you know, I'm sure we'll keep in touch. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, mate. It's really good.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Right. No, that's it. Thank you for your time. Take care, and hope to see you soon.
Cheers, Robbie.
All right, thank you. So there you have it, guys. That was my interview with Nathan Arnold. If you did enjoy it, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video as well, and subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss an upload. If you do want to see more interviews like this from myself, please do let me know down in the comments below. I will be reading them. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.